Times Matrix News, making a video to discuss the crazy conspiracy that's going on right now. I'm mainly addressing this because of this George Soros-led coup against Donald Trump through the media. As you can see, this is a paper discussing his history, basically overthrowing governments through coups, and we're seeing a globalist-led coup against Donald Trump at this time. This is nothing new, but this is very orchestrated. This whole thing began with Donald Trump and his executive orders ending with what they call the Muslim ban, and then everything kicked off from there. So it was very orchestrated, and I'm going to go ahead and do a video montage to go ahead and show you all this collusion going on between the media, the deep state, the CIA, all trying to oust Trump and this radical leftist globalist agenda. The Muslims are working with the globalists. It's just like Hillary and Obama working with the Muslims. Anything to destroy the United States of America. So what we're witnessing right now is a orchestrated coup to undermine Donald Trump, who had an amazing first week in office, was making an amazing progress, more than anything we've seen in the last 30, 40 years in Washington, D.C. And of course, George Soros is the front man for the Rothschild and the globalists who want to destroy the United States of America. So join me for this informative montage of videos on Donald Trump and the globalist takeover. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
This is the plan to defeat the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. In other words, ISIS. I think it's going to be very successful. Okay, that's big stuff. Have a good weekend.
Thank you to implement the immigration executive order that you issued yesterday.
Totally.
And is it a Muslim ban?
Totally. It's not a Muslim ban, but we were totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airports. You see it all over. It's working out very nicely. And we're going to have a very, very strict ban, and we're going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American. It was implemented in a way that created chaos and confusion across the country, and it will only serve to embolden and inspire those around the globe who will do us harm. It must be reversed immediately
At this moment, the Attorney General is Sally Yates. She's the acting Attorney General. She was appointed by Barack Obama, and she has just instructed Justice Department lawyers not to defend the executive order that was issued by President Trump last Friday dealing with immigration and refugees. She has just told her lawyers, essentially, that this is a law, an executive order that she doesn't believe is legally defensible by the Justice Department. Now, this has the effect of basically grounding this executive order, at least for the next few days that Sally Yates is in office as the acting Attorney General. As you know, Jeff Sessions is the nominee by President Trump, and he's awaiting confirmation by the Senate. I'll read you a part of an order she issued to her lawyers today, which says, "My responsibility is to ensure that the position of the Justice Department is not only legally defensible, but it is informed by our best view of what the law is after consideration of all the facts. In addition, I am responsible for ensuring that the positions we take in court remain consistent with this institution's solemn obligation to always seek justice and stand for what is right. At present, I am not convinced that the defense of the executive order is consistent with these responsibilities, nor am I convinced that the executive order is lawful." Wolf, this is a big deal for the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, to make this instruction to the Justice Department lawyers.
The president did is not constitutional. Indeed, in the view of many of us, it is immoral. Protect all of us take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. What the president has done is not in the interest of security. It is reckless. It is reckless and rash.
It will make us unsafe because it makes our soldiers who are fighting overseas have fewer allies. And it will make us unsafe because the nations of the world will no longer look up to us.
Every generation of American citizens have had to earn the right to enjoy the freedoms and the privileges of citizenship. Every generation has faced the choice. Do we let our ideals expand or retract? Do we let our freedoms grow or do they retrench? Do we let love expand or do we let love be beaten by hate? This generation now has our test. There is a shadow hanging over our ideals and our values. There is an assault on our values and our principles. And now more than ever, we must choose to fight. We must choose to resist. We must choose to stand up for what we believe in.
We will fight Donald Trump in the courts. We will fight Donald Trump in the Congress. We will band together to fight Donald Trump as he tries to put himself above the law of the United States.
What Trump has done is give ammunition to the jihadists all over the world who have told their people that we in the United States hate them. We do not hate the Muslim people, and we want them to know that. So we say to President Trump, rescind that ban. Thank you.
President Trump has fired the acting Attorney General who resisted his executive order and replaced her with Dana Bente, the former U.S. Attorney from Virginia's Eastern District. We're told he was sworn in at 9 p.m., just 45 minutes ago. CNN Sarah Murray's at the White House, has more from there. What are you learning, Sarah?
Well, Anderson, I mean, I think it's clear the president acted very quickly when he saw that the acting attorney general was not going to follow through on defending this travel ban. We have been waiting. We know that there were staffers at the White House who were in meetings deciding how to respond to this. Obviously, they decided to make a move late tonight and sort of relieve her of her duties. Now, I think it's telling to look back at what Sean Spicer had to say, the White House press secretary, in his briefing today. He was at the time being asked about State Department officials who did not not agree with Donald Trump's travel ban and essentially said either they should get on board or get out. And that seems to be the view the administration is taking. Now, obviously, we know Sally Yates was probably not going to be on very much longer. She was an Obama appointee, and they are waiting for Donald Trump to have his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, confirmed and in that position. But if you are a critic of Donald Trump, whether a Democrat or a Republican, I've heard from a number of people saying, why has the president moved so fast with a number of these executive orders without having his own team in place? And they particularly were pointing to the travel ban and the Attorney General, saying you're leaving yourself open to criticism with really no one to defend you. And I think we saw the ramifications of that play out tonight, Anderson.
Let's get to the latest on that terrible attack at a mosque in Canada. And Gil Benitez has new details about the suspect.
This morning, investigators are zeroing in on the life of 27-year-old suspected shooter Alexander Bissonnette.
People are going to be a little bit more on edge, but I'm hoping that everybody just comes together on this and shows again their support for the community.
As Canadians from coast to coast held vigils in just about every major city, a former classmate tells ABC News that Bissonnette was very conservative politically and described him as anti-immigrant. A neighbor of the alleged gunman telling me Bissonnette was always alone, didn't appear to have any friends, and never went to parties. Bissonnette is said to have been dressed in black, wearing a ski mask, shouting as he entered the men's section of that mosque Sunday night. Now we're learning about some of the victims, including a professor at the same university where Bissonnette studied anthropology and political science. Most of the deceased in their 40s, now leaving families behind. While the motive for the attack still isn't clear, it came just one day after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took on President Trump's immigration crackdown that many see as anti-Muslim.
The people who commit these acts mean to test our resolve and weaken our values. We will not close our minds. We will open our hearts.
Good morning, Lionel and Aaron. 670 students attend the academy here at the Muslim Community Center in Morton Grove. And just yesterday, they held an immigration rally here where more than 1,000 people attended. Well, now today, the principal is paying close attention to the terrorist attack in Quebec.
For someone to just say, hey, we feel nothing's wrong, I think anyone's lying to themselves. But the idea is that how do we make sure that we educate in our own community, educate the mass, and at the same time be prepared. Our community needs to understand that at the end, America has always been a safe place. There might be some incidents, but we hope for the best.
Chicago police had this reaction to the attack. There is no known threat or link to Chicago as of now. As a precaution, we will be increasing our posture around mosques. Police districts have been directed to provide special attention. And the principal says right now they're not providing any crisis counselors, but they are paying close attention to the students' needs, and they do have counselors on hand if needed. We are live in Morton Grove this morning. Susanna Song, CBS 2 News. Aaron and Lionel.
Thank you, Susanna.
Yeah, I was going back to Quebec City. I think it's really important for people to understand something because we just dodged a bullet up there because I'm convinced this was meant to be a major false flag operation.
While they had their people in the streets, while they were activating them?
Yeah, I need to use an analogy, and I don't mean to use this analogy for anything to do with explosives. It's just to understand how this works. If you're setting off a fertilizer bomb, which is, ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, ANFO, you can't throw a match in it. The match will go out. You can't even throw a blasting cap in it. The blasting cap will just blow some ANFO around. You need to have a progression. The match lights the fuse lights the blasting cap, lights a stick of dynamite. That is enough to kick off the ANFO and make the big explosion. What we saw in Quebec City, the way I look at it, it was intended to be one of those booster charges. You need to accelerate the hysteria, the panic.
So it was a misfire.
It was a misfire. Exactly. That's why they went from Daily Beast at the crack of dawn this morning showing two white French guys with rifles to having to retract it.
They were already primed.
Right. They were primed. And the people were already at the airports. Imagine how easy it would be to shut this country down with people just acting a little bit more hysterical at the airports, the country would come to a halt. So imagine, and this is what we have to, the reason I'm talking about this is next hour or next week, this can happen. And we need people to be tuned in for the likelihood that this will be a false flag operation. And unlike Quebec City, it might be a very successful false flag operation where there's a white patsy, with the smoking AK-47 dead outside the mosque.
By the way, you were saying this from memory. We got to find the tape 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's going to happen where it'll be somebody shooting it from an overpass.
You're right. Their only move is to make themselves the victim. You're absolutely right, Matt. It's not a question of if but when.
Well, they're already in the streets, because then it'll go from in the streets to doing something that is extremely disruptive, such as storming through airport the airport security, which would absolutely just stop air traffic around.
Which they mean to plunge the stock market with. Soros made moves against the stock market today in conjunction with demonizing Trump. So they're already trying that. In fact, it appears they had it all set with this false flag. You're probably right. And the riots they already had primed for a stock market plunge to blame Trump, but it failed.
Right. And the moment is lost because gradually the new media gets the word out that these 6 countries were just Obama's failed terror states. These are nations like Libya and Sudan and Yemen that or Somalia. Nobody that's useful to our country comes out of there.
Well, they don't even really have real airports, right? I mean, places like Somalia.
You can't go there and stay alive. If you're a white Christian, you'd be dead or kidnapped in a week. But if this attack in Quebec City had worked, God help us, right now the country would be if let's say 50 Muslims had been killed and there was a blue-eyed Quebecois outside dead, which I think is one of the ways that this scenario was intended to play out. I think that Mohammed Qadir, I don't see him as the mastermind. It's possible. I see him as, Patsy 1 and Patsy 2, Bissonnette and Qadir. But there's some Dr. Raoul X out there, that's organizing these, and it won't be the last. Believe me, this will not.
Well, I'm so glad I got you on, because I knew something was fishy. But no, you add how they tried to plunge the stock market this morning, how they put out the fake news, and the site you mentioned is synced with Soros. Yeah, they got caught in a dry run, or it misfired.
I think it was a misfire, and the left will try to just bury the story. I mean, it's amazing. At 10 o'clock, I was just right at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock this morning Eastern. I was flipping between.
That's your other big tell. The fact that they jump on it immediately and then it evaporates show it didn't go the way they wanted.
It just didn't. It's like an unstory, a non-story. If this had been a white guy with an AK-47 dead outside of a mosque with 50 dead Muslims inside, the people that are at the airports now would be shutting the airports down.
And it would legitimize all them out there. Oh, look, Trump supporter goes and does this, but he lived. The dumb mind control or easily influenced idiot lived. And so now it's not, you can see it now. In fact, Matt, you're absolutely right. They absolutely had the whole thing set up.
A lot of times these guys go off at the wrong time. Going back to the Weather Underground, the bomb meant for the Fort Dix Officers Club dance goes off in the townhouse. In this case, I'm not sure, because there are the reports of the Allah Akbar. I'm not sure if Mohammed Qadir had one idea and Bissonnette had another about how it was going to play out. But if you go on Gates of Vienna or Vlad Tepes blog, Rebel Media, which is a Canadian YouTube channel, I'm sure we'll be all over this. We need to look carefully into the Canadian connections. There were apparently 2 competing mosques up there. There's a more radical mosque and a more moderate mosque. The moderate mosque is the one that was attacked.
Sure, that's the way it always is.
This is a classic profile of a false flag. The Bolsheviks set off a bomb at the Mensheviks and blame it on the Russian cadets. You know what I'm saying? You don't.
Sure, they ran false flags against the White Russians.
Right. You don't run a false flag against your own mosque. You run a false flag against the moderate mosque.
Yeah, you kill 2 birds with one stone.
Attacking. Right. You kill 2 birds with one stone.
Plus, it makes it more sympathetic that it's a liberal mosque.
And you wear a mask because they might have recognized you at that mosque. Survivors might have recognized you. So I'm
so
not
bottom
sure.
line, we better, Trump doesn't do the stuff like other people did to scare people. We should be on maximum terror alert right now, but watching for false flags.
Yes, and any knuckleheads on our sides, please don't do anything stupid. If it's a false flag, that's one thing. We'll get to the bottom of it. I'm guessing, just like within our own FBI, regarding the Hillary emails and all of that, up right now in the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, that there is probably a lot of pressure to bury this thing if it looks like it was a false flag, and there will be honest investigators and detectives interrogating this. I think it's the Bissonnette who was that called himself in. That
oh yeah, wait, it's going to come out he's being handled by Trudeau, you know, and the federal police. It's going to come out that he's being handled by some foundation group. Bet money we'll hear by tomorrow. It was known a year ago that he was in whatever radical group, but nothing was done.
Or if he was not in a radical group, if he was secretly radicalized so that he could be used as a throwaway patsy, if he was not a mosque goer, but he just came under the orbit, say, of Mohammed Qadir.
Sure, well, that's the problem with a pure false flag like this is the wind-up toys lose faith, they get cold feet, or things don't go as well because, you know, these patsies are not the sharpest knives.
Right, and the patsy might have even been told, we're just going to go into the backsliding moderate mosque, the apostate mosque, and we're just going to shoot some guns and scare them. He might not have even been prepared to see people killed. But in any event, I would be looking for him to commit suicide in jail. I look for him to hang himself from the vent duct, because if he's got a lot of knowledge about his handlers, or any knowledge about handlers above Mohammed Qadir, I would look for him to have a very short life in captivity.
Yeah, he's got that delicate genius look where they think they're so smart. Looks like a classic idiot patsy to me. Why do they all look the same? They got that dumbass look. We'll be right back with Matt Bragan.